Hey, Sir Golan, thanks for joining us. You and Kelbo were friends for a very long time, and I know that Kelbo was there from the founding of the kingdom and maybe even a little bit before that. Shalazar, you had some questions for Sir Golan about that very long-lasting friendship.
Absolutely. First off, Sir Golan, thank you for coming on the podcast. Can't really have a podcast without people like you and Cho Hag, obviously. So, because heck, back then he was your page, right? Back when you guys were first starting to get the kingdom together.
I don't know. It's all blurry from way back then. Yes, he was my first page. And yeah, actually, I think he was my page before we did the kingdom. I think timeline wise, that is correct.
Yeah, some of those stories that he would always tell, because hell, we spent so much time on the roads, like you did before that. That's all we had time to do was tell stories, war stories, while traveling. So I heard a lot about those stories back in the clan times, going to clan and stuff. Those stories I would love to hear. I would love for you to tell the story of the rolling up the windows or rolling down the windows for everybody because everything was so cold in there. If you could tell that story later for us. But the first question I'd like to ask is, what role did Kelbo play when Neverwinter was first coming into existence?
Well, he played a very important role. He's basically my right and left hand man. When we were first getting together, Tony was going to UF, I believe. We started the Southeastern Alliance, and either Tony had just graduated. I think he might have just graduated UF and had come back down, and he had taken the class on the Robert's Rules of Order. So he was kind of like, hey, they can't do that. So he didn't really want to talk to everybody, but whenever Barry or Kid Rad or some of the guys from West Palm would do something, he's like, they can't do that. That's out of order. So I'd be like, out of order. so one particular meeting was a really, really long meeting. We had the very first meeting in the Southeastern Alliance. We called it the Monarch's Iron Retreat because Kidrat had rented a campsite, but neglected to tell everybody it was like a 2.5 mile walk to get to the campsite.
Jesus Christ, I would die.
Yeah, well, we almost did die. So we called that the Iron Monarch's Retreat. So the second one, he called it the Posh Monarch's Retreat, and that was in a hotel in Gainesville. And they happened to have happy hour. You had free happy hour for 1 hour, and it was all you could drink. So at some point in time, we had meetings all day long, and they decided that we'd have a break, and then we'd have a meeting, like an evening meeting. Well, that wasn't good because it was after the 1 hour open bar. So me and
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was me and Kudzu and Russ just basically stayed in line. We would stay in line, get to the front, get a drink, go to the back of the line, and drink it on the way up to get another drink.
Wow. Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. I don't know how many we drank in an hour, but it was a lot.
However many you guys drink, I can only imagine Kelbo drank more.
No, Tony. I mean, when Tony drinks beer, it wasn't like he was drinking anyway. So,
Sure.
So me and Kudzu and Russ were like obliterated for this evening meeting, and I just remember Tony's like, they can't do that, and like he would hit one of us, and like Kudzu would be sleeping, or like, and I think we had votes and stuff on that meeting. I don't even remember what that meeting was about, but I just remember, Tony smacking me and be like, you can't do that. Vote against that. Vote against that.
So what you're saying is, so let me jump in here for a second. So what you're saying is, so many people in the past always said that you were the instigator, you were the one that actually were the leader of Falling Fire. You led them and you puppeteered everyone at Falling Fire. In reality, the ultimate puppeteer was Tony. Is that what you're telling me?
I cannot confirm or deny said allegations.
I mean, okay, yeah, right on. I was just making sure.
I mean, I think we all know the IQ of Tony, so
yes,
maybe that was his grand plan.
He is definitely a super villain, a super villain genius. Yeah, that's for sure. He is the Lex Luthor of our generation.
Yeah, so Tony, I wrote the first Scapora. I had gotten all the Kingdom Scaporas together, and I assimilated them all into one document for Neverwinter. And Tony was the first person to edit that document, and then DeCivil was the second. So
I cannot confirm nor deny any of the allegations that he might have edited lots of stuff that I wrote through my term of king. So
yeah, he was a good sounding board, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because he probably would have been probably third, fourth, fifth in line for getting knighted. But he took the hiatus for a few years, and that it was sad because I mean he deserved to be one of those people, because he was. If it wasn't for his help and guidance, Neverwinter might not have been Neverwinter. He was at the clan that we got our kingdomship. He was at all of the meetings for the Southeastern Alliance. He drove us to most of them. And his wisdom, and his I may or may not have had a hot head back then, so he was definitely he was a calming factor to that for sure.
I can definitely attest to that as well, being a hothead myself. So he's definitely great at that for sure.
He told me once.
Go ahead.
Talking about the supervillain thing. He told me something once that stuck with me. He said, in comic books they always create this dichotomy where what are Superman's villains? It's all smart people. He has very few people in his rogues gallery where he's going up against another really strong person. It's always someone who's trying to outthink him. I said, yeah, I never thought about that, Kelbo. And he said, here's the difference, Flo. Superman doesn't really exist in real life. The smart people do. And it had never occurred to me that
he was talking about himself. He was trying to give you a hint, and you were just too stupid to realize it.
That's exactly what was going on.
I mean, not everybody knows. Tony graduated from UF, and his last year, he had a choice to make. He could take a super easy class, but it had mandatory meetings at 8:00 in the morning on, I think, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or he could take thermodynamics, which is literally the hardest class that UF had to offer, but didn't have mandatory meetings. So he took thermodynamics, didn't go to class, and still got, I think, a C in the class. So that was his choice his final year. So
I think it's amazing because, and I love talking to you about a lot of the stuff that happened way back in the day. I mean, God, we've sat hours talking about random stuff, but what's amazing to me is some of the stories that you guys tell about his role and how things went down, because he was a pretty humble guy. I mean, he'd be the first one to tell you the goofy, silly things that he would do that would, he would be the center of attention. He loves telling those stories about himself, but he was very humble when it came to his role, or the part that he played when it came to real life, the real stuff that needed to get done. And he was a blaze of force behind that thing being done. So I think it's amazing hearing those stories from you guys.
Listen, I still lived in Winter Haven. Let's see here. Falling Fire started October 1995, and we were having a gathering of drinking sorts at my house, and it was me and Cho Hag, and Tony, and we were obliterated drunk. And he's like, what do we need for our park? I said, we need a website. Now this was like 96, like January 96 probably. I'm like, we need a website. He's like, what do you want on it? I want lightning bolts. That's all. And Tony's all like, I can do that. So he sat down and he's like, that work? I'm like, perfect. He's like, okay, we got to have a website. Like, so he set up our first Falling Fire website, and we had 3 flashing lightning bolts on the page. I think
the best GeoCities had to offer.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, I think I mentioned this already on the podcast, but with someone else's story. But when we were running the battle games during our reign, I told him, I was like, look, I need some way of keeping up with everybody's money, the gold that's being handed out. And he's like, all right. And he's like 5 minutes later, he's like, here you go, just download this. Here you go. There's the stick to download it to your laptop, and this is how it works. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Yeah. Effing kidding me? Like, Jesus Christ, man. dude was on it.
Yeah, he missed one question on a Reeves test, and I would never let him live that down because
God, I wish I knew that. I would totally give him shit about it.
Yeah, it was forever on every one of his Reeves tests after that. It was it was
that sounds like something he would do. That's definitely.
The question was, what is the garb requirements for an archer? He's like, okay, it's a bow. I know that. It's a bow. And so I was there while he was taking his test, and he debated for like 10 minutes about the tunic color. And he's all like, is it a blue one? Is it green? What? He's like, God damn it. What? He's like, what color tunic do they have to wear? And so he put blue tunic, and I marked it wrong. And I was like, it's any tunic. He's like, well, blue's any. I said, no, you debated too long. So I marked it wrong, and he about had a shit fit about it. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is great. So I alluded to it earlier in the conversation. So there was a story you told, and he told it too and it was funny to hear it from your point of view and then to hear it from his point of view. But it boils down, I'll set it up for you. It boils down to Tony is a goddamn polar bear. I'm almost positive that he is a polar bear that's been reincarnated into a big man. And the man likes it cold. For everyone out there, he likes it cold. I'll tell a cold story after Golan tells his cold story. So they were on the way to Clan, right?
No,
it wasn't Clan because it was cold, so it couldn't have been Clan.
No, we were actually on the way to Colorado for no event at all. It was me and Tony and Fruit Loop. We just had 2 weeks off, so we decided to drive to Colorado. My grandparents lived in Colorado at the time, so I guess that's why we decided Colorado. So we drove through Pensacola, and because it's all like, well, I have 10 days off, We're like, get in the car. We're like, when it's time for you to go home, if you have to fly home or something, you can fly home. So he hopped in the car, and we just drove to Colorado. So I think we were in Kansas. And if you've ever been to Kansas, if there's a God, he does not like Kansas because
it's terrible.
It is by far the worst.
It's bad.
Oh my God, it's just horrible. There's nothing there. I mean, it was rainy. It was cold. It was just disgusting. So we're driving through Kansas, and he had the windows down, and it was like, I don't know, 6 degrees outside or something. And so it was me and I think Kudzu in the back seat. And we had like every stitch of clothing that we brought on and this giant cloak thing, and we're still like freezing. So we had fallen asleep or something, and we woke up and it was like a sauna. Like it was so hot in the car. And I think Kudzu's all like, why is it so hot? And Tony's like, that's it. That's it. It's like, and all the windows came down and we're like, oh, why did I look at Kudzu? I'm like, what did you do? He's like, I don't know, I was asleep. And that was it. The windows were down the rest of the trip. We go, like, I think I had frostbite on a pinky. I don't know.
So you guys were freezing throughout the thing, and he finally gave in because he's a good dude. He finally gave in to everybody's bitching. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So he finally gave in to everyone's bitching, rolled up the windows, turned the heat on, and then the moment someone mentioned about it being hot, that's all he needed.
Yeah,
that's all he needed.
And it was
that's so fantastic.
We were asleep, and it was like, Kudzu's like, why is it hot in here? That's it. And all the windows came up. I was like, God damn it, Kudzu.
Yeah. So I've got a couple. One, just the simple being in the middle of summertime in Florida and stepping out of his vehicle and seeing my breath. I mean, other than that, that one was pretty bad. The other one is in the middle of winter, stepping out of his vehicle to warm up. That's a thing. That's an actual thing. But the Green Lanterns it was one of the events in Florida, and we were at the cabin that you got married at, actually. And we had one of the cabins there, and it is so cold in that cabin in the middle of winter. Him and Bunch, who's also a big guy like myself, they are insistent on this cabin being ice cold. Bunch had stopped and bought a brand new sleeping bag, and their negotiation with me was that Bunch gave me the sleeping bag for free. Like, I will give you this if you let us keep the air conditioner on. And I wake up to Kelbo sleeping with his bed. He put it, of course, he always picks the bed closest to the air conditioner. And I wake up to the sheet being strapped down to the top of the air conditioner, and then the sheet laying on top of himself with it blowing directly onto his body. And that's what I wake up to. And I'm like, and everybody's just sitting around talking, and I go, man, I gotta piss. I open up the sleeping bag and immediately close it. I'm like, nope, I will piss the bed. I will piss the fucking bed. It is way too cold in here. You guys suck. So yeah, that's my cold story.
I also like the cold. He sounds like a perfectly reasonable gentleman to me.
Right. Yeah. I just imagine him somewhere with a Coke in one hand, for the Coca-Cola commercials, the polar bears. So anyway, so the last question I'm going to ask everybody is, what is your favorite memory with Kelbo?
Oh, my bad. Did you say something to me? I had to let my dog
That's
out.
okay. What is your favorite? What is your favorite memory?
What is your favorite memory? I wanted you to tell me my favorite memory of you and Kelbo. Now I want you to tell us your favorite memory with you and Kelbo.
Well, it has to be when I met Kelbo. It was like I said, we started Amtgard October 1995. So somewhere around November 1995, we had a birthday party for a girl that was in the park. I was 19 at the time. So Tony would have been 21, maybe 21, 22, somewhere around there. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I was 19, so shit, he might have been 20. I don't know. 20, 21, 22, so right around in there. No, he had to be 20. He had to have been 20 because I went to his 21st birthday. So he was 20. I was 19. We were at this party, it's Amtgard party, and there was just, everybody was drinking and whatnot. So it'd been...
Like you do when you're 19 and 20.
Well, yeah, I mean, at that time, drinking was 18.
Okay.
So it was getting late. I don't know what time it was, 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and I had to pee. So, I walked to the bathroom, and Tony is literally laying on the floor, with a tap to the keg in his mouth. just laying there. And I'm all like, bro, I gotta piss. He's all like, oh, it's fine, go ahead, go pee. So like I'm standing on the toilet, like cock in my hand, looking down, and all I can see is Tony's head. Like I'm like, bro, this ain't gonna work for me. He's like, no, that's fine. He's like, just don't drip. And I was like, I'm looking, I'm like, no, this ain't gonna work. He's like, I grab him by the ankles and drag him out of the bathroom and dropped him in the hallway, and that's where he stayed. So that was that was the first time. And actually, he came back from UF for that party. I remember that. But yeah, that was the first time I had met Tony. Along the same lines about how he became my page was actually at Dragon's Rage 1 or 2. I got obliterated. Go figure. And I had to pee. I was at the fire, and I was like, oh, I gotta pee. He's like, oh, no. He's like, the bathrooms were like a mile away from where we were. He's like, no, we'll just go right over here to the pond. Right? So like I go to the pond, and I'm weaving and wobbling, and so all of a sudden he just like clasps me, holds me down so like I could be steady, and I go pee. And then he lets go, I fall over. So he like picks me up, drags me to the tent, and just like flings me into the tent. So the next morning, like I'm in the tent, I'm like, how did I get here? He's like, oh, well, after you pissed on yourself and then fell over into the water, I thought I would at least bring you back to the tent.
Stop you from drowning.
Yeah. I said, damn. I said, that's awesome. I said, you should be my page because you could totally get me back to my tent because you're the only one big enough to do it. And he's all like, is that an offer? I'm like, you gonna be my page? He's like, yeah, I'll be your page. So that's how he became my page.
Nice.
Ironically, that same event, he saved Dead Guy from the lake too.
Wait, who's Dead Guy?
Dead Guy, I don't know his actual name, but he was from the Pensacola area with Kudzu and Russ. And Tony named him Dead Guy, and he's still Dead Guy to this day because Tony literally just thought the dude was dead. He was like, he went to pee, he fell over, half of him was in the water. Tony picks him up, dragged him to the fire, left him by the fire because he didn't know who he was or who he belonged to or anything. And he's all like, the next day, I think he was talking to Kudzu there. He's all like, yeah, I totally found this dead guy by the lake. Like, he's like, I put him by the fire, and they're all like, I forgot what his name is, but they're like, so-and-so? He's like, I don't know. Did you find him by the fire? They're like, yeah. He's like, yep, that's Dead Guy. And every once in a while, I like he'll tag me on Facebook or I see him at an event. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I had a similar situation. We were at an event, and so split pants suck. They suck a lot.
They do not suck. They do not suck at strip clubs.
Well, I could see that. I could see where that would
allegedly.
Fun fact.
I noticed you had to look around to say that. To be on camera.
I was seeing if my dog was inside.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what you were looking for, I'm sure. I'm sure the wife or kids was not in mind at all. But anyway, so we were at an event and it was a long day. Oh my God, it was such a long day. I sat down on my bunk, took my tunic off. My belt was still on. Like, fuck. So I took my belt off, untied the string in the front of my split pants, went to untie the string in the back of my split pants, and it had pulled taut into a knot. And I'm just like, okay, fat man with T-Rex arms trying to reach the knot in the center of his back. Not really. And I whined and just sat there because I was so goddamn tired. I'm like, I'm just going to sleep in them. I'm just, because they look like, I mean, at this point, it looked like a superhero cape that had gone down to my waist because it's flowing behind me because the front was untied. Anyway, Kelbo felt sorry for me and came over and untied it for me. Here I am in my boxers with this grown ass man undressing me, and I'm like, God, I love you, man. You deserve so much better than me. Oh God. Yeah,
That's
good times. Good times. That was a little embarrassing, but I had to tell the story. There was only 2 people that knew that story, me and Kelbo. Now the four of us, and his 3 listeners.
Hey, we have 25 listeners. Thank you very much.
My apologies.
Up 2 from last month.
Right.
Well, hey,
nice.
Sir Golan, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I love hearing the old stories, and you had quite a few really good ones. So thanks again for coming on, man.
Yep, no problem.